Hey everyone, this is going to be a quick demo on how to create multiple layers for a Dyson sphere, and we're going to be using the SphereEditorTools mod here to create a layer using its Symmetry tool that we'll be able to draw the sphere with. We'll draw one layer and then copy that and paste it into other layers that we'll create right now. First thing about creating layers is I generally try to keep them at either 0, 90, or 180 for the inclinations. So I'll try to find a nice even number to start with here. I know 33,000 through 30. I'm going to do 4 layers, so and space them 1,000 apart. Just generally want to run the slider along and just make sure that there aren't any planets that are going to be cutting in the way of that. So I know below 34,000 will be good here. So I'm going to do 33,000 and set the first layer at 0 for inclination and 0 for longitude. So it's just going to be a nice default layer here. So we'll add that in for layer 1. Next layer here, we'll put 1,000 apart at 32,000. And now this one we're going to make at a 90-degree inclination. And we'll set this longitude to 0 also as well here. So now we have 2 layers. One that's going to be, when you view it here, it's kind of in the on its side in the designer. So the poles are actually here. To the left and the right in the viewer, and then if you look at layer 1, it's going to be, the poles are going to be here with the 0-degree inclination. So we're kind of alternating here. So now if we start the simulation here, if we start the game, you can see that this first layer here is going to be rotating counterclockwise, and at least to our view, it's rotating slowly, but it's coming like bottom to top here, kind of rotating from down to up here. So now if we want to add more layers in and have those rotations go in the opposite direction, when we add more layers in, what we need to do is change our inclination here. So if we were going to add another layer in at 31,000, we still want it to be aligned with this layer 1 that's 0 for inclination, but we want it to rotate in the opposite direction to what that layer 1 is currently rotating. So what we do here is we set the inclination to 180, and what that's going to do, we'll set the longitude to 0. So now if we look, we'll start the game up again. So if you look at layer 3, this is rotating slowly from right to left. And then if we take a look at layer 1, that has the 0 inclination still, that will be rotating from left to right. So when we put these layers, when we actually put stuff onto these layers, they'll get that kind of like alternating rotation effect where they're rotating in 2 different directions and not just rotating in the same direction the whole time. So, and now we can do that again with layer 2 at 90 degrees inclination also. So we can add another layer in for layer 4 at, let's say, 30,000, and this will be 90 degrees again for inclination, but we're going to set the longitude now to 180 here. So we'll go ahead and create this layer, and you can see that it's kind of rotating top down now from this view. So if we look at layer 2, click on that, it's going the opposite direction, kind of downwards to upwards from the view we're looking at here. So okay, so right now we have 4 layers. They're all alternating. Like first one, second one is 90 degrees inclination. Third one is 180, going the opposite direction, and the fourth one is 90 again, but also going the opposite direction to layer 2 here. So these are going to be the 4 layers we're going to use. I'm going to pause the game again, and we'll now go into the SphereEditorTools mod. So one thing to keep in mind when I did this, I unpaused the game to show you the rotation of the layers. So if I was to create these now and modify the rotation speed going on with the mod, it's not going to line up correctly when we paste the other designs onto each layer. So one thing when you're using this mod is when you first come into the designer, you want to always make sure the game is paused and that you're not changing you're not running the game before the sphere is completely designed out. And the angular speeds or the rotation speeds of each layer that you can see in the tool menu here where it says 0.42932. We want to change these values before we actually get working with this after we've created the layers. So one thing I like to do is I will set each layer to the same value so that it will keep these aligned. It'll keep the layers aligned once you start actually running the game. So I'm actually going to start over at this point. And I'm going to add these layers back in, just doing what we just did. And so real quick, just once again, we'll do 33,000, 0 and 0 here for our first layer. We'll do 32,000, 90-degree inclination and 0 longitude. 31,000. What was this? This was the 180 for the inclination and 0 for the longitude. And then we had 30,000. And this was 90 also, but it was going to be 180 for the longitude. So we get that alternating effect on each layer. So the game is paused. The layers are created that we want to use. So now we're going to come into SphereEditorTools here, the mod, and we're going to highlight each layer and we're going to set the value to the same rotation speed. So if you click on each layer here, you can see the angular speed here will change value, and this is just the default rotation speeds of the vanilla game. So if you create a layer that's very close to the star, it's going to rotate faster than one that you have way further out here. So if we create something out here, if we create a layer way out at 50,000 radius, you can see that the speed is 0.22, but if we go to the layer 1, it's 0.42, so it's rotating faster by default. So what we're going to do here then is I'm going to get rid of that layer, and we're going to set these 4 layers that we created all to the same speed. So I think for now what I'll do is I'll just set them all to, actually I'll set them all to 0 just to show you what that looks like. So I'll type in 0, click the set button here. I usually like to click it a couple times because it doesn't always take the number you enter into it. So just going to come into all these, set them to 0. And then I'll just double check all the layers to make sure that speed is set to 0 in the box here. So now what that means with the speed set to 0 on all of them, if I unpause the game, these layers aren't going to move at all, and they'll all be lined up once we add a design in. So I can unpause it, and you can see that it's not rotating at all anymore. So that's what we want at this point in the design. So yeah, at this point I think our layers are pretty much ready to go. So now we can use the SphereEditorTools here to do the actual design of the sphere. So the neat thing about this mod is the Symmetry tool that you can use, which is kind of similar to like Kerbal Space Program or one of those games that you can use the plus and minus buttons where it says Symmetry tool there, and you can raise that number up to give you more points of drawing from. So if you see, I have it set to 8 right now. When I move my design line onto the grid here, it's going to show 8 dots here that I can draw from. So I can click and then kind of do 8 lines at one time here. So in terms of using this, I don't think it's showing my mouse right now. It's kind of a pain, but yeah, if you just watch the GUI here, so it's set to 8 right now. You can change this to any number you want. But I think in terms of the designer, at least using this grid, like things like 3, 6, 3, 4, 5, 6, basically 3 through 9, and then 12, I think. Let's see, if you go to 12, that gives you a space of, I kind of use this circle at the top here as like the guide for using this. So if I'm starting a sphere, I can kind of line this up with the white longitudinal line that comes down and kind of keep it centered here. So I generally won't go higher than 12, but I think you can. I think there's 24. Yeah, there's 24 of these lines here. So 12 is kind of right in the middle. If you go higher than that, you'll see it'll kind of stick nodes in the middle in between lines here. So I kind of try to avoid that just for the neatness of the sphere. So I could try something like 12 here. So basically all I have to do now is I just start drawing stuff and just seeing where I can get things to line up. You can very easily, I can come out all the way to here, very easily make these floral patterns, diamond patterns, things like that. And you know, you can just kind of move around and see where things fit up here. So it's very fast to create designs in this. Yeah, I can just keep drawing on here and it will fill everything in here. Very occasionally the nodes, you can kind of see it drew lines in half of these. I think that has to do with when you're connecting certain nodes with this tool, it'll say that there's a deployment conflict in one of them. So very occasionally you'll have to draw like another line to get it to complete what it was doing. But yeah, other than that, you can just keep going down and just, you know, creating whatever kind of design you want here, basically. And just kind of see where, I'm just randomly clicking right now, see where you can just get kind of stuff to fit. So yeah, as you can see, it draws a lot of the sphere design very quickly with this Symmetry tool. You might see the buttons here that say none, equatorial, and antipodal. So that's another thing I'll show you real quick. I didn't have the equatorial box clicked, but if I do, let me come to layer 2 here, and let's see, can I hide layer 1? And we'll click the equatorial button on. So now, if you look at the designer, when I have the dots here, you can see that they're at both poles now. So it's going to draw from the top, all of these, and it's going to draw from the bottom. So if I do something like this, and let's see, I'm getting a conflict there for some reason. I'm not sure why. I'm not sure why that's saying that's red. Oh, it's because I'm on layer 1, possibly. Oh, it's because I was on the other layer that had stuff on it already. Okay, so if I come onto this layer here, we have the equatorial button clicked now. So if I line this up like this, and I'm just going to draw a diagonal line going kind of right to left here, and just connect it where each major grid square is. I'm just going to click here, and you can see it's going to draw it from both sides and make the design there. You can see when it met in the middle here, it didn't connect half of them, so that's the kind of thing I was talking about, where it there'll be a deployment conflict and you'll have to click that again to get the rest of the lines to connect there. So yeah, that is the basics of the equatorial mode. So if you leave it at 12, you could connect some of these lines and then fill it in with you know, like the shell patterns here. I'm not entirely sure what antipodal does either. I thought it kind of made it so like it went from, if you're connecting lines from one side to the other, it did the opposite when you are drawing from the other part of the pole here, but I haven't messed around with it enough. And then I'm not entirely sure what anchor mode does either. I don't usually turn it on, so I haven't played around too much with what that does. I will mainly use this just for the equatorial mode, like the drawing and setting different values here to draw stuff with, and then I'll set the speeds on the layers with that. So let's just say we got our design done and this is all we wanted to do for now. We can go ahead and copy it to the other layers. Let's use layer 2 because I think that one's more complete. So I'm going to copy that under shell blueprint on the lower left here where it says selected layers. I'm going to copy the layer here from 2, and let's see, I don't think it won't let me paste it in if there's already stuff here, right? Yeah, so let me delete this. I'm going to delete layer 1 and redo it. This one was just the 33,000, 0. Okay, so we'll create that, and just need to reset the speed also back to 0 for that layer. So okay, so we have our layer 2 that we copied the design on. I'm going to paste it onto layer 1, layer 3, paste it onto layer 3, and paste it onto layer 4. So now here is kind of the design that we get from that, where it's kind of symmetrical right now. We haven't unpaused the game or anything, so it's lined up the way it should be. So I'm going to be using quick build for this demo in the sandbox mode just to get the nodes built. Yeah, if you're doing this on your normal vanilla world and you're using the mod, you just want to make sure that all the layer angular speeds were changed to the same value before you unpause the game or do quick build. That's the critical part of getting the layers to all line up. So we have each layer should be set to 0 now. I'll just double check that, and then I'm gonna do quick build, check that on, and I'll do unpause the game. It's gonna create the grid lines here real quick. So if I unpause, the rotation speed set to 0, so this isn't going to move at all. I can still move around though and fly around and, you know, see everything that's in the sphere and everything. So that is basically that. Let's see. So I'll fly a little further out here and attempt to kind of get centered. Yeah, so the other thing I was going to mention was you can see there's a swarm filling in there on the layer 1 using the quick build. This is definitely a helpful thing for just seeing the overall design and getting yourself lined up. So you can see that swarm of solar sails kind of going left or going across here, and that swarm is actually here, and it's at 0 inclination, so it serves as a good guideline to see if you're lined up with things with the center of the star, and if you're trying to line something up in the center, it works pretty well that way. I'm not sure if I'm going the right way. I think I have to go this way to get. So if I was going to be recording a video, I would kind of I would design the sphere, kind of line myself up like this, and once I know that I know I'm not lined up perfectly here, but just for sake of the demo, let's say I am lined up and it's looking good. That's when I will create a save at this point. I'll save the game. Create a save just with myself lined up like this. Then I'll come into here and pause it. And that's when I can change rotation speeds again if I want using the mod. Or I can delete layers of the sphere, and once I unpause the game, I'll kind of be lined up where I want to be to start recording it. So let's try something. If we set this to, well, I'll show you actually what it's like when you delete them. When it's set to 0, that's when you get like the big explosion. Where since there's no rotation speed, it all just goes into the middle of the star and then just explodes into a big explosion. So we can delete these layers and see what this looks like. Just delete that. Okay, now we'll unpause it. See if I can line up a little better while it's imploding here. You have to hold the S key or slow down to make it so you're not going to be going toward, or you can, if you're recording, you can go towards the star also. You can see with that swarm orbit, I'm still a little below being perfectly lined up, so I can kind of hit spacebar and go up a little bit until I'm perfectly in line, and that swarm is just a line that, so now I can tell I'm even, at least that way. And then other times when I record, I'll fly towards the star while it's being destroyed, so I can speed up a little bit, maybe 200, and then just hit F11, go into the nice view mode, and just kind of, you know, watch the star implode. So yeah, so it's starting to pick up speed here, and you should see the explosion in a second here. And yeah, just a reminder, this is with using the mod SphereEditorTools and having the angular speed set to 0, so there's no rotation in the layers at all. And then this is the effect that you're going to get from that. It's just going to be a big explosion, lots of solar sails just going everywhere. That's what gives you this effect. You can play around with that number. You can look at what the default angular speed is, and you can make it lower than the default but greater than 0. That'll kind of give you an effect where you get some of the solar sails come in and explode, but then other ones kind of hang around and they'll orbit around the star more. But just having it at 0 like this gives you the big explosion. So yeah, that's this effect here. And if you come into the map view, you can see like the big cloud here. Once there is a render distance here, so once these solar sails get out to a certain point, they're going to stop rendering. So you can't just have like a big explosion that takes up your whole map. It is going to cut off after, you know, a certain distance, and it's not going to make it to another solar system or anything like that. So but yeah, that's that view there. So let's try a different, real quick for the demo. One last demo I'll do here is, let me load up the game I just saved. Okay, so we'll load this up one more time, and so if we come back here, look at our layers, the angular speed is still 0 on these layers if we look in SphereEditorTools. So when we created these before, I want to say it was somewhere around 0.4 was the default speed that they were going at. This one's 0.33 because it's further out. I just created a random layer. It's a little slower, so I'll show you what I did for a previous video where I set these values to 1. So we'll set them all to 1. It'll be the same Same speed on all of them. This will be just slightly over double what the default rotation speed is. Okay, so I just double check that those are all set. Oh, I did make a mistake where I did it with the world time running. Not a huge deal for the sake of this video, but you definitely do want to pause the game before you modify these because they'll start rotating before the other ones have started yet. So you definitely want to pause the game if you're going to change the rotation speed. So this probably is out of alignment a little bit now, but it'll probably still be fine. So if I unpause, you can see like the rotation speed is 1. So it's going to rotate faster than the vanilla game would. Now, when we go to delete these layers, since the speed is faster than what the default vanilla game is, it's going to allow that expansion to go out further. So basically 0 is you're not expanding at all and you're just collapsing until the solar sails explode. Setting it higher than the default makes the layers expand out further than they normally would in vanilla. You could set this value to something like 20 and it would go crazy fast, just instantly expand out beyond the limit, which I've tried before with like, it doesn't look very good or work very well. It just very quickly expands outwards and kind of just spreads out. But we'll try it with just 1 for now and see how that expands. You'll see that it's going to expand out further than it normally would. So just delete that, delete layer 2, delete layer 3, and delete layer 4. So now when we unpause, we should see these start to spread out. And you can see that the destroyed layers are already making it outside of where the default nodes were, and it's outside of the swarm that is put there just to line everything up. So yeah, it's going to expand pretty quick like this. So this is a value of 1. I think let me do one more reload, and just to show you how fast it is, I'm going to set everything to 20 just as a demo of that real quick. So, but from setting it to 1, you'll get a nice effect. If you just let that go for a little while, it'll expand very nicely, a nice speed. So, but setting these to 20 is a little bit different, as you'll see. I forgot to pause the game again, so I messed that up. Yeah, always pause your game when you come into the editor. That's the main thing. So set that to 20, 20. This is just, it's going to be way too fast in my opinion, and it's just going to expand. And so here's 20x speed here. I don't think it's 20x, but that's just the ratio it is for the speed. So that's what 20 looks like. And then if we pause and delete these, you're going to see it's going to expand out very quickly this time. Okay, so now if we unpause, there it goes. If we come to the map view, we can watch it a little better, but yeah, it's going to start expanding very quickly and go out pretty far. Very far. It goes out very far very quickly at this rate. And you can see it kind of gets stretched thin very quickly. So yeah, I wouldn't really set the rotation speed to be that high. I usually keep it within 1 or maybe 2 might be the max number I would put in for those. So yeah, you can kind of see like that's how you get the expansion to go out further than normal with the mod, is just using the angular speed here. But yeah, that's everything I pretty much wanted to cover in this guide, or just demo basically, of SphereEditorTools. You can get it on thunderstore.io, and it's made by Starfish. I think it's like a must-have mod if you're designing spheres or building a sphere. Basically, it comes in handy quite a lot, and it'll save you a lot of time when you're building the sphere. So yeah, I hope this is helpful to some of you out there that are kind of struggling to make the sphere designs or things like that. Yeah, definitely this tool will help you out a ton. So yeah, hope you got something out of it, and yeah, everyone have a good one. Thanks.